If you're 50, 60, 70 years old, you may be feeling a bit of restlessness as retirement is approaching. Conquer it, and especially if you're already retired. For me, the restlessness did come early, before retirement. I knew I really didn't want to retire. I kind of didn't like the word, but I did want to stop doing what I'd been doing for decades. So I was ready to make the change. I just didn't know what it was. I had a lot of questions. I knew deep inside that I no longer wanted to pursue the matters I had been doing for all of those many years and didn't have to any longer. Providing for the family while they were grown and doing well on their own. Increasing my income, well, for what? And even casual time, downtime with friends was feeling empty for me. The depth I'd longed for and didn't really understand why I was longing for it seemed to get more shallow rather than deeper as the years went by. Everything was feeling very predictable. Nothing new was showing up. It felt a little bit like boredom, but it really wasn't because we were actively doing stuff, going here, going there, doing this, doing that, still involved. For some, the feeling is boredom. For others, anxiety. Some, this matter of restlessness. Some call it uselessness, a feeling useless. We've been doing stuff all of our lives that we felt was important, helping people, fulfilling corporate goals, reaching our own personal goals. And now it doesn't feel quite the same. Sure, you can plan trips, play golf, do this, do that, or the other, and fill your time. For me, I'd never been one just to fill time. I'd always wanted to kind of live purposefully, even if I had not done so over many of those years. The desire was there. And this is true for many who are healthy and active and have been responsible over many years. This begins because we're actually noticing the obvious. At least half, maybe 60%, maybe 70% of my life is now in the past. We've noticed. Now, of course, it could be 99% because we could go tomorrow. We understand that. But if you're active and healthy, you're not really thinking that way. You know it's true, but you're not really thinking that way. Rather, we think about how fast that went. And what about the future? Will that be going just as fast? Probably so. We want to be able to look back and say, that was satisfying. That was accomplishing something important. We say that about our past right now. We want to be able to say that about our past however many years from now as well. As I'm getting older, there's definitely more than the physical, more than the stuff of life that we must do. I begin to sense that. I begin to feel that. Yeah, I accomplished this task or that task, but does it have any value beyond the short life it will live? A business created, a house that was built, a car that was purchased, a cruise we've taken. For me, I did start a business when I was only 20, and that business, over about 8 or 9 years, grew to about $1 million, but then it kind of got out of my control, and I had to file a corporate bankruptcy. So then I converted it into a 2-person sales agency where all I had to do was handle the sales. And so I eventually sold that. That served me well for about 15 years. And I sold that to the fellow that was doing the service work as we wrote the contracts for him to do them. So that gave me time to set aside about a year, excuse me, and write a book, Building a Purposeful Business. And I've just updated that book recently. But I wrote that to share some of the pitfalls of running a small business, to warn and encourage those who were formulating their own plans to start their own business to watch out for certain things. But that was 25 years ago, and at that time, I left that entire creative element behind. That part of me that felt so much satisfaction in writing. And as important as it was to me, I left it. I left it behind. Well, why? Well, I had to get back to doing the stuff of life. Earning an income, being responsible. I'd been like I'd been for the previous years. So then, though, as retirement began to enter the picture, the things felt different. All those endeavors are behind and do not need to be resurrected. I know I won't have to be doing those things. So when I was approaching retirement, I was sensing a more profound urge, calling, desire, but wasn't sure what it was or how to connect with this inner urging to do more. But actually, it turned out that it was not an urge or a desire to do more. I finally discovered that it was a latent desire to be more. I'll tell you more about that later. So during my approach to retirement, I had the thought, well, what if I live another 15, 20, 25 years? Because my mother had just passed at 101 years. And so those thoughts were in my mind. I said, I want them to be intentional. I want them to be purposeful. And so even more so, really, because now I have experienced stories, events that I can share that will help others in some way. So for me, these feelings actually led me down a devastating path that I call a black hole period. I call it this because I traveled a road for the sake of discovery and desire that was not best for my family or myself. It was not a terrible time or place to be, but it also was not fulfilling or satisfying as I had expected or I'd hoped for it to be. So I don't want you to come behind me and have to deal with those things similar to that. I'd like you to consider these matters ahead of time, head on. Answer these questions that are so important in fulfilling your purpose in this new phase of life. One we've not had the privilege of experiencing before. It's a whole new kind of world for us. During these previous years, it was different than what it is now. So I was trying to scratch this itch that I didn't understand. And I stayed in that place for almost 10 years. When finally I began to wake up to what was actually stirring within. And once I realized the black hole I was in was not real, that is, it was not fulfilling the longing within, I immediately left that time of my life in quite a profound way. And I came back to the world I'd lived in most of my life. Now, during those transitional months, a tall black friend with long dreads approached me. And he suggested I attend 2 weekends away from home, for personal growth. He said he had just returned and it was a life-changing event for him. Now, here I am, decades older than this young fellow, but the timing was right. I knew I needed answers to these urges within, these questions that I had, the restlessness I felt, to be more intentional in this final inning of the game, as it were. So I didn't have too many questions. Within a couple of weeks, I paid my $4,000. I set my flights up and my rooming details, and then attended what became for me as well an amazing, life-changing experience. The event was atlasproject.org. I was confronted with exploring the details of my life, thoughts, and interests, making discoveries I had never thought about before, connecting with others in a deeper and more real and transparent way than I had ever done in the previous 60 years. Then came a breakthrough. And finally, before returning home, I started to redesign the rest of my life. It has been an amazing time. Now I help others through a similar process to awaken the real you within during this new phase of life that you're entering, or if you're already there, already in retirement. You see, I never gave myself permission to consider these matters when in the midst of the doing of life, the day in and day out stuff of life, kept me very busy, as I'm sure it has you as well. It's the way it is for many of us. We're too busy with life that we don't take the time to look beyond the surface. But now, during this new phase, you've got the time. But more important, you have the desire to think deeper, to look further. to get answers. What's next? For many seniors, this stage is now simply a time that requires a little bit of guidance through these unfamiliar waters so that you can reach the other side. So don't stay in your own black hole, wondering what's next. How do I fulfill that something that's inside that you really do not understand? Most are asking themselves the wrong questions, frankly, such as, is this a midlife thing? Is this a hope that's lost? Is it a desire to relive part of my earlier life? Am I washed up with nothing more to offer? Am I useless now to this younger, fast-moving generation? Does anyone have any interest in what this old guy or old gal has to offer? Is this misplaced hope to do something I've never gone after before? Is this boredom? Or like in my case, is this a longing for something physically engaging but no longer in my realm of reality? No, it may feel like some of those questions need to be addressed. But really, it's coming simply to know who you are in this new space, this new place, this new phase of life. This time of life where you can now slow down and smell the roses if you give yourself permission. This period of life when the doing no longer fulfills your inner longings. It never did, of course, but now you have begun to recognize it. This becomes a time of more reflection and seeking to know yourself from the inside out. It's a time to set aside who you've been and who you really are. Or, like in my case, that maybe you've portrayed yourself to be over many decades. And to rather find out and to discover the one who you really are and what is really important to you. It's time to ask, what do I really believe deep inside? Not what do I say I believe, not what do others say I ought to believe, but what do I believe, the real me? And how can I measure if what I believe is coming merely from my head or if it's calling from my heart and mind? What's really important to you? It's easy to say, oh, well, my family. And of course, that is true to some very real sense. But you will now impact, how will you impact the next phase during these days of retirement? What tugs at your heart and cries out for attention? What is it that my life has gleaned over these years that I might now finally begin to pour in to someone else? That's what we want to discover, to clarify, to understand, and then to pursue with purpose and intentionality. This inner desire has been formed within you as a result of your experiences, whether it be work or family or church. Every realm of where you've been and what you have done has all affected you. It also encompasses your talents, your resources, your abilities, your beliefs, and each of your individual life challenges and achievements. These are all mostly very unique to you. This is the type of work we do together in Profound Pursuits. I want to invite you to come and meet myself and others who are each on their own pursuit. The link is in the comments and in a post. You'll also see that there's an offer for a guided group journey, 30-day challenge, and one-on-one option, a 9-day opportunity, just you and another person, myself, working with one other person at a time. I call that the 9-day trip, the fog to clarity. So these links too will be in the comments, and I hope to meet you really soon. Thanks for listening.